If I see any of these placements in your birth chart, let's just say I'm gonna do my best to avoid pissing you off. These placements are strategic, calculated, simmering with depth and precision. I wouldn't associate them with explosive anger in the same way I would the placements I mentioned in my previous video, but I think these deserve recognition for how intimidating they can be. Keep in mind, we do look at the entire birth chart to really get the full picture, so take this with a grain of salt and pop off in the comment section about any experiences with these placements. I live for the comment section in these videos. First and foremost, we gotta talk about Virgo energy. And you wouldn't expect it, right? Because I feel like Virgo typically likes to observe. And best believe they're usually pretty good at keeping themselves in check and keeping themselves under wrap, arguably to a bit of an unhealthy extent. But they're just gathering data, putting together pieces, identifying patterns. You see, Virgo really doesn't want to be messy or explosive. So by the time you push them to that place, we're talking years and years worth sometimes of justifiable anger, of self-righteous anger. Honestly, I think that Virgo really only feels entitled to expressing anger when it is self-righteous. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the shame that Virgo contends with. But self-righteous anger is an entirely different ballgame, especially when these placements have been gathering the data anyway. Not to mention, their inner world is not the most gentle, comfortable place. They usually have a pretty profound inner critic. When the world catches a glimpse of that, there aren't always words to describe. If you know, you know. Which brings me beautifully into my next point. If you have a lot of Cancer placements in your chart, and in particular, Cancer Mars. And I'm not usually one to make distinctions around like gender, but I will say, given the expectations for men and women in society and all this stuff, I've noticed that men with a lot of Cancer placements can be a little more gnarly. It's almost like they're wrestling with the highly emotional quality of Cancer, which means that they're that much more reactive and explosive and like, I'm gonna get mad so you don't see how sensitive I am. But that's maybe for another time. Similar to Virgo, Cancer placements are constantly storing data, and it isn't so much observant in the way that it is with Virgo, it's more feeling. When people talk about how Cancer holds on to resentments, yeah, if we had an experience 5 years ago where you proved that you weren't trustworthy, you didn't appreciate me, I can't really let go of that because that's going to compromise my emotional security. So Cancer placements are always carrying this huge overflowing backpack full of grievances, of pain, of sensitivity that they themselves resent having. And I have multiple Cancer placements myself, okay? So I'm calling myself out here just as much as I am you. I think I saw somewhere recently, and you guys fact check me on this, I'll probably fact check myself too, but if you look at some of the data around types of crimes committed and zodiac sign associations, I'm pretty sure Cancer is really high up on the list for crimes of passion. And it's usually because by the time they're upset or angry, again, we're talking sometimes years and years worth of suppressed anger. And years and years worth of suppressed anger that isn't even directed at you, but more so everything they've accumulated that now they finally have an opportunity to release. And because Cancer is also so attuned to emotional safety and protection, guess what? They know how to hit you exactly where it hurts. And half the time when Cancer placements get angry, I feel like, number one, they cry. We cry. And number two, we're really angry about the fact that we're angry. It's like an emotional snowball effect of resentment and anger, all fueled by this underlying desire to feel safe, seen, appreciated, and loved, which often feels really vulnerable to be in touch with. So yeah, anger in this moment is preferable. Don't play with Cancer placements and do not take them for granted, because we aren't gonna forget, okay? You know we've got to talk about Scorpio energy in the birth chart. Scorpio and Cancer actually have a lot more in common than I think people realize. My hot take is that Scorpios are Cancers that just know how to hide it better. Both signs really want emotional safety and security, but I think also with Scorpio, quite often we've seen more experiences of abandonment or betrayal, secrecy. Scorpio in our chart does tend to correspond with some attachment wounds or trauma we've lived through. So if you have like your moon in Scorpio, or like Venus or Mercury, or a Scorpio stellium, you might come across as cool, calm, collected, observant, mysterious, but there is an entire infinite ocean of depth and feelings and soaking up psychically a lot of the feelings and pain that isn't even theirs to begin with. Scorpio soaks up just as much as any of the other water signs, but they keep it really in check. But if you do wrong by a Scorpio, especially if that Scorpio has ever trusted you, I mean, anytime there is real emotional depth and like abandonment and vulnerability driving anger, it's just that much more intense. And I think one of the other differentiations between Cancer and Scorpio is when a Scorpio is done, oh, they're done. They go scorched earth. More so than with Cancer placements, Scorpio don't have the same qualms about hurting you, especially if they feel like you deserve it. And I'm just gonna share this too. Don't you ever try to lie to your Scorpio people. They know. You're just making yourself look dumb. Okay, let's move on. I guess we're going with a whole zodiac sign theme because we got to talk about Gemini. Honorable mention, Gemini Moon, Gemini Mercury, Gemini Mars. The more Gemini, the more bonus points, okay? Because here's the thing, Gemini is really quick with their mind, with their intellect, with their tongue. They're gonna intellectualize. They're gonna look over here and look over there, distract themselves with something sparkly. And if you ever put a Gemini placement or someone with multiple Gemini placements in a position where they feel like they can't escape, they can't run away or intellectualize, or you make them feel like they're not listened to, they're not just gonna go sulk in a corner or like write about their feelings. They are going to rip into you. I feel like Gemini placements, kind of similar to Sagittarius in a way, but that might be for another video. They would rather set something on fire than sit with heavy and uncomfortable emotions. They will wield the weapon that is their words, the arsenal really that is their words, the moment they feel trapped in experiences of being hurt or disrespected. And after a certain point, don't even try to like argue or talk to Gemini about it, because they are going to trample over you so fast you're going to feel dizzy. And while we're at it, let's talk about Lilith in Gemini, but also Lilith in Aquarius. Lilith is that dark feminine energy that we feel like we need to suppress because it's too much. Sorry if it threatens your fragile male ego or stereotypical expectations. Lilith is not here to be subtle, quiet, or keep you comfortable, even though usually she struggles with that earlier on in life because there's this fear of being rejected or kicked out of the respective garden. But Lilith in Gemini amplifies all of those Gemini qualities. Lilith in Gemini is always going to have the last word, knows she's smarter than you, and honestly, she probably is. Or at the very least, she's going to have you thinking that by the end of the conversation. Whereas Lilith in Aquarius knows how and when to detach from emotion in order to be savage. And Lilith in Aquarius is certainly not going to leave a conversation feeling anything less than on top and powerful. I'm fully convinced that my Lilith in Aquarius people are the ones we need the most right now to bring down the patriarchy. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna have to wrap this one up for now. But stay tuned for the next one, and I love you all.